Let's start with the equipment that you need to do electroforming and a little overview of the process, how it works. I don't like to get into a lot of the electrical part because I don't really care when I'm making jewelry about that, but it's good to know a little bit about it when you're working with electrical equipment. The first thing you need is a rectifier, and that is a little machine that changes your house current to direct current, much like a battery does. You need to do that because house current is way too strong and would just burn out your pieces that you're electroforming. So this is a rectifier that you can get from Rio, and this is a very small little rectifier that Sherry Hobb has developed, which is the one that I really prefer to use because I really don't need to know anything about the current and the voltage that's coming out of it. But if you get a bigger rectifier like this, all you need to know is that you need very, very low voltage output and a very, very low current or amps output. When you're rectifying, you need an electroforming copper solution. We're working in copper, and this is also from Rio. And this makes the electricity move in your beaker. So you have a beaker, you have what is called an anode that conducts the electricity. Your piece that you're electroforming is considered your cathode, but we're going to call it the piece you're electroforming. Distilled water to wash the piece after you're done doing that, because if you run it under tap water, you'll get minerals on your piece and that'll change the color of it. So when we're electroforming something that's organic, we're going to hang it inside the beaker in the solution. And what's happening when it's hanging in there and hooked up to the rectifier is that little particles of the copper on the anode are coming off and swimming through the liquid and attaching itself to the organic piece. Nothing will attach to something hanging in there unless it also conducts electricity. So when you're doing something that's organic, you need to prepare your piece so that it conducts electricity, and we'll go into that later. When you are electroforming in anything other than copper, you can do silver, you can do nickel, you can do almost any metal. The solution that you buy actually has particles of the metal suspended in the liquid. Copper is the only one where you are actually taking the particles of copper right from your anode and depositing them on your cathode. You will see this eventually get smaller and smaller because it's wearing away the actual metal on the copper piece. This is the way Sherry Hobb puts her anode into her beaker. Lots of people just suspend an anode like this from the edge of the beaker, which is another way to do it. The reason why this is a really clever idea is that you have your metals completely surrounding your piece so that it's depositing more evenly. Some people go to the trouble of hanging one of these on each side or even more than two so that the metal is coming from several directions onto the piece. But this is a really effective way to do it, and all this is about 8 gauge or 8 or 10 gauge copper wire from the hardware store. So that's all you need. When I learned how to do electroforming, the plus for me was that you could do organic pieces because it's just so much fun to walk around and collect pieces that you find in the woods and make them into jewelry. But it doesn't have to be organic. It can be anything. It can be plastic, it can be glass. If it starts out as metal, if you took, let's say you took an old metal Monopoly board piece and it was I don't know what that metal is actually, but if you hang metal in here, you don't have to do any prep work because it's already conducting electricity, but it will turn copper colored. One of the things you have to remember is that to get a very bright, shiny copper, your anode has to be bright and shiny, and when it sits in this solution, it will dull, and I'll show you what that looks like. This piece has been sitting in here and has been used to electroform quite a number of pieces, and it's time to clean it. And all you need to do is take a brass brush to it to get it shiny again. So the other pieces of equipment that you need to electroform are laid out here. You will need something to suspend your piece and hold it in the liquid. So again, Sherry Hobb thought of this clever way of using chopsticks, and the wire that you suspend your piece on actually just sticks in there. These are the great little chopsticks that come attached to each other before you break them apart. But anything will do, a piece of copper wire sitting across the top, some kind of rod that sits on the top of the beaker will do. To electroform anything that is organic, you need to first cover it in several coats of lacquer, because this solution will actually damage the piece if it's not protected by lacquer. And if you don't put enough lacquer on it, you will see your piece sort of just get soggy in your solution. So you want to do 2 or 3 coats of lacquer, and water-based lacquer, which you should go on the hunt for, is preferable to all the oil-based, because you can just rinse everything with water, and you can thin it with water if it thickens up. You need, after it's coated with lacquer, you need to then, and dried, you need to paint it with a conductive paint, a metal conductive paint. And there are several on the market. Rio sells a silver one. Sherry Hobb sells one that she makes that is made out of graphite and is also water soluble, so you can thin it with water, and I like to work with that one. So with all that equipment, you're ready to get started.